Everybody back to work!
You need to keep both eyes open.
One of the biggest storylines in Marvel's history is finally coming into focus at the perfect time within the MCU, and this was a reference we first heard about during the Kree and Skrull conflict in Captain Marvel. So why are we just now exploring such an important event nearly a full phase of movies later? Well, that's a question I'm going to attempt to answer in theory, and I think the timing of this series is all the more fascinating and offers a realistic glimpse into the grand plans of phases 4 and 5. As strange as it is to think, there might be a through line here that Marvel has been steadily planning, and with it, alongside some recent promotional material, we might have a hint as to why Secret Invasion will be used as the true catalyst for a dark age in this cinematic universe. If you've been wondering where the MCU is headed during Phase 4, you're not entirely alone. Hell, I've seen every single movie multiple times, and I've been scanning the Disney Plus shows for even the tiniest of Easter eggs, and believe me, it's a lot of information to carry around. That volume of information might be the very thing causing Phase 4 to feel as disjointed as it seems, which from me to you, I actually don't mind. I do think this messiness was unintentionally intentional, because Kang becoming the preliminary threat is not super surprising given how seamlessly he was introduced and how it followed the calculations of Endgame. But what is surprising is the order in which these shows and movies have been released due to two particular anomalies. The worldwide pandemic devastated much of Marvel's planning, and the passing of Chadwick Boseman required Marvel to correct course at near-instant speed and somehow salvage an already unfolding storyline about its multiverse without its most essential character for those next phases. This is largely why at times it often feels like we're working sideways without a nucleus through this new phase of stories. But while Kang is clearly unquestionably the threat for the future, and the rumored cameo of Doctor Doom coming up could act as the initiation into Secret Wars, I think the Skrull conflict here is what will help kickstart both the Age of Galactus and the World War Hulk Returned to Earth following his movie, and here's how all of that creates the biggest Marvel moment yet.
Can't kill you if you're already dead. Besides, I wasn't sure who to trust.
The foundation for Secret Invasion was first referenced during the Kree and Skrull War in Captain Marvel, which, as a quick line in passing, was easy to overlook. Not only did it give credence, no pun intended, to younger Ronan's character arc, but it became the spark for much of the tension surrounding the Skrulls' origins and would lead to the eventual motivations for them in the larger MCU. For such titular characters, I am a bit surprised we mostly swept their screen time under the rug. Granted, this was right before Endgame, but it's important to revisit the past to set the stage for the future, because the Skrulls, much like Hydra and Winter Soldier, have been working quietly in the background with only a few characters aware of their involvement. With their factions split between refugees and zealots, I think this division will be the keystone for a new Civil War-like event, similar to how Steve and Tony eventually found themselves at odds, but in this instance, it will be Talos and his refugees versus those who believe Earth is the rightful successor to Skrullos. Simple, right? Another Civil War, humans versus Skrulls, it all seems pretty straightforward, but this is where the setup really gets interesting. You see, Fury has been removed from a lot of the events on Earth, as we saw in the post-credit scene of Spider-Man Far From Home, and because this series takes place between Infinity War and Endgame, this actually confirms a few major plot points. Number one is we now know that Fury and Agent Hill were in fact alive during the 5-year blip given the canonical timing of this show, which officially confirms that the Fury and Agent Hill we see in Infinity War and subsequently Far From Home are actually Talos and Sorin, meaning not only were they the ones responsible for calling Captain Marvel, but the real Nick Fury we know and love has yet to catch up on Thanos, the status of the Avengers, and the various events that Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Wanda, Sam, and the other members are currently going through. Fury is removed from the pulse of the universe, so he will be on the forefront of rediscovery in this new world, leaning heavily into that spy thriller tone we saw in the trailer. What Steve experienced in Winter Soldier by being a relic of the past in a dangerous new system will now be the atmosphere for Fury on a much larger scale, and individual conflicts about who he can and cannot trust is just the tip of the iceberg here. Fury's resolve into the new world whilst navigating a biological landmine of Skrulls might become the breaking point for both his trust in the authority of Earth and how he handles relationships with heroes currently in rotation. Not only will his guard be tested, but heroes such as Rhodey, Sam, and potentially even Spider-Man could become close confidants for Fury's alliance, given that he likely knows of Sam thanks to the events of Winter Soldier and possibly Spider-Man from conversations with Sharon Carter in Civil War. That being all speculation, but not entirely out of the conversation. It's not out of the cards for Fury to form his own subsect of confidants within the reins of this new Avengers unit, who he tasks with confronting the Skrull conflict, and with all signs pointing towards Rhodey as Fury's first line of connection, it's that relationship that has me worried most. With Armor Wars coming in the pipeline, now would be the ideal time to reveal the long-standing theory that Rhodey is in fact a Skrull. This would not only throw Fury off his game, but would create the divide necessary to begin the fracturing of Earth's heroic resources and start the invasion process. In the original Armor Wars storyline, Tony Stark's biggest adversaries found themselves with the designs of the Iron Man tech and went on to design their own suits. In our version of Secret Invasion, if Rhodey is in fact a Skrull, with the direct purpose of working to infiltrate the Avengers and gather tech for the Skrulls to use during their invasion, this would launch directly into Armor Wars, being the perfect way for our real Rhodey to navigate his own recovery process as a rogue operative looking to clear his name, much like Tony did during his 3 movies. With Rhodey potentially being compromised and Fury's list of confidants shrinking faster than Scott Lang, this is where the Skrulls will leave their mark on Phase 4, completely tearing apart the pre-established orders of Earth 616 and debilitating the Avengers from the inside, a move that Ultron would be quite proud of. Those heroes off-world who are dealing with their own threats will have no safe haven to return to without the threat of these undistinguishable body snatchers, and by removing Earth as a safe house from cosmic entities such as Captain Marvel, the Guardians, and even Doctor Strange, this puts a necessary spotlight on the ground heroes to navigate that terrain in a brutal and exposed fashion. Paranoia within the ranks of the Avengers would only serve to cripple them against future threats like Kang, and it would be up to Fury to work on recovering the ground defenses as a base of operations for identified and vetted heroes. This gives Fury a whole new purpose within the Marvel formula and returns his character to the badass soldier he used to be. In this version of Secret Invasion, the Skrulls would serve as an imminent threat to the order of things, as well as being termites to the fundamental floorboards of Earth's defenses, thus making it even more impossible for the Avengers to tackle different sectors of their universe at one time. So how does this invasion bleed into World War Hulk and eventually Galactus, like I mentioned earlier? It's all about timing. You see, the timing of this series coincides right with Hulk's departure back to Sakaar, where we know the inevitable outcome will be Planet Hulk and the eventual fall of Sakaar into World War Hulk. The rampage of the monster and the revenge tour back home to Earth will likely hit as the overwhelming forces of the Skrull invasion begin to overtake our homeland. This forces the attention of the Avengers to be split amongst the conflicts, a cosmic blitzkrieg from interior and exterior threats that might trigger the SOS call for Captain Marvel, Nova, the Guardians, Adam Warlock, Fantastic Four, maybe even X-Men, and so many more heroes to return to Earth to stop the Hulk. All of this whilst our heroes' backs are against the Skrull Armada and an army that we haven't seen yet in this universe. It would call for our heroes to be put in the most dire moments. Not only is this where Doom could rise amongst the rubble of collapsing nations and become a new false beacon for Earth, but Kang now has the upper hand thanks to the Skrulls' destabilization of the most powerful planet in the cosmos. Multiple threats rising, a World War Hulk looking to kill every hero in his path, Doom playing politics, and the Skrulls continuing their parasitic ways, it might be just enough to force a call out from Warlock or the Fantastic Four to the Silver Surfer to call for his presence to bring Galactus here. Yeah, the Skrull invasion of Earth won't just wrap itself up after Secret Invasion airs. This will be a lingering threat for years upon phases to come. It's what will catapult Doom to power. It's what will force unlikely alliances between rivaling factions to join together. It's what will lay the groundwork for Kang's domination. But all of this will be too powerful for Earth to face alone. And from these embers, I believe, the call to Silver Surfer will happen. The call to Galactus will happen not as an enemy of Earth, but for the neutral equalizer he's always been, a necessary nullifier to wipe out the Skrull infestation at their strongest and to consume away Doom's grand plans. This will be the final resting stop before the multiversal war begins. Galactus will not be the final boss here. He will be the Hail Mary attempt at saving future galaxies from the Skrulls and from Doom's reign itself. How will Kang let any of this play out? That's yet to be seen, but one thing is for certain, and that's that the biggest threat to the Avengers as of now is not a time-traveling scientist nor a mystical dictator, it's what's within, and who you think your ally is. And as always, thanks for watching.